Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And the content today, I've got clips from sitting senators across the board, which are going to talk about this whole crisis that we have in this country around the schools, around the sensitive areas that we are not protecting. And I'm going to show you some things you may have never seen from the advocates of gun control out the wazoo in the Senate. This is one I need you to send out because we need to have this conversation more. It is time no longer to sit here on the defense and not do anything the proper way to do it. We've got to use these own clips and their own words forward in this conversation because we need to solve the problem in this country around our sensitive areas and also our children. Everything's going to be linked in the description box below, and I need you to say something in the comments on this one and send this one out because this is a brutally important conversation that we have to have. And I'm going to start off by saying something really, really important. Restraining the rights of the legal will only enhance the power of the criminal. We made a shirt about it. I've said it on videos for 2.5 years. It's right down there in the description box if you believe it and you want to wear it. This is something that we have to bring forward to the front of the conversation because you are restraining the legal based off of the actions of the criminal, and you are enhancing the power of the criminal by penalizing the legal. Now, I've said that. Let me get you into this. This is Chris Murphy. This is what he said. This is the leading gun control advocate in the Senate. This is what he said after Uvalde. Check this out, and then you might hear some very odd things because they kind of conflict. Here we go.
What are we doing? There have been more mass shootings than days in the year. Our kids are living in fear every single time they set foot in a classroom because they think they're going to be next. What are we doing?
Fair transparency. This guy, a wolf in sheep's clothing is a good description for this guy. Now, this is after Uvalde, and he goes up on his stump speech, and he says that we've got to do something. We're not doing anything. What are we doing? We've got to do something, something, something. Your inaction is everything. Booker, I can't remember the guy's last name. Cory Booker, there we go. Cory Booker goes up and says, inaction is complicity. They're all laying it right on the feet of every gun owner in the world, and yet when they are offered a solution to solve the problem, they do this. Again, same time frame, Senate, Ted Cruz introduces a bill for more funding for mental health counselors and more funding for the hardening of schools and more police officers. And Chris Murphy says this.
Senator from Texas.
As if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of S. 4845, which is at the desk. Further, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Madam President.
Senator from Connecticut.
Madam President, I object.
Objection is heard.
That's weird. What are we doing? We've got to do something. Republican Ted Cruz comes out and says, let's harden schools, let's fund police officers, and let's fund mental health counselors to prevent this from happening. I object. Really, Chris Murphy? You object. So it's not about doing just anything. It's about doing your preferred solution because you are fully on the payroll of Everytown for Gun Safety, Moms Demand Action, March for Our Lives, the entire gun control apparatus in the United States. It's almost like their preferred solution is more important than actually hardening and protecting the most innocent, of which you are making hay on. This is pretty gross. I'm going to be honest, this is pretty gross. This conversation needs to be a lot more broad. Ask people why they will not accept this. Why would Chris Murphy say, no, we're not going to do anything like that? We can't even have a conversation. Okay, I'm going to say more on that in a second. Let's see Ted Cruz's response, all right? Same thing.
What we just saw on this floor was stunning. I am genuinely at a loss for words. This bill is common sense. There is not a constituent in Texas or Nevada or Connecticut who, if you asked, would it be a good thing to have more police officers keeping our kids safe, wouldn't say, of course it would. There's not a constituent of ours who, if you asked, would it be a good thing to have more mental health counselors on campus to stop people from committing crimes, would say, of course it would. I was informed a few days ago that when I was going to seek unanimous consent, the senator from Connecticut was going to object. Now, the senator from Connecticut styles himself the leading advocate of gun control in the U.S. Senate. I was asked by reporters, why are the Democrats objecting to this? And I'll tell you what I told reporters. I have no idea.
It's a good question. Why would you oppose this? It doesn't make any sense. Particularly when, again, you're on the stump speech of the moral superiority angle that you always take about just do something, what are we doing here? And yet you shut down anything. We have a problem in this country. We'll be the first one to admit we have a problem in this country. Gun owners want this to stop. The issues with our children, the issues with our school, the issues with our sensitive areas of our population needs to stop. But the continuation of our way or the highway should be drawn more attention should be drawn to it because it's gross. It's obvious. You don't want to do the most basics. You want to have a bigger conversation around your gun control versus gun rights. You want to talk about what you want in the population. You want to talk about large capacity magazines. Have the debate all you want. It's unconstitutional, but have the debate. But in the meantime, fund the hardening of schools, fund the police officers, fund the mental health issues, because it's quite obvious that if you harden the schools and you stop the immediate issue, you can have more nuanced debates later on about what you think the country's vision should be, but maybe stop the problem instead of saying we're not even going to talk about it on the floor of the Senate and then turning around and saying that you're the big moral victor of this, or not victor, moral arbiter of this. Now let's continue because I got a few more clips from sitting senators. This is the same guy, Chris Murphy, same guy.
So this was probably one of the last things we ended up getting done.
It's a tricky business.
And those due process rights that now apply to every blue state, in addition to every red state, are in there because, people like Tom were driving a hard bargain.
Chris Murphy, everybody. Blue states, congratulations. He just gave you back your due process rights, of which he took unconstitutionally, and he cannot do that. But now you guys have your due process rights, which are constitutionally protected because Chris Murphy really conceded and they drove a hard bargain on the Republican side. Are you picking up a theme here? This guy is taking the position of a villain to the Second Amendment. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm saying his positions are bad. He is literally saying, I don't want to I have a conversation about hardening schools and providing police officers. I'm going to grant you your due process rights in this gun control bill that I want pushed forward. This is who is trying to claim the moral high ground. It's time to call him on it. But now, let me go back to Kyrsten Sinema because she said something interesting, and then a Republican did too. Check this out.
We know that individuals who take up firearms and engage in mass violence, every single one of them is mentally challenged and disturbed, every single one of them. And we're preventing some of those acts of violence by getting folks that help.
Okay. That's Kyrsten Sinema, who is now an independent, who caucuses with the Democrats, who used to be a Democrat. At this time, I believe she was a Democrat when she said that. It's mental illness. It's not an inanimate object. There's obviously something deeper going on. Okay, now let's go to Marsha Blackburn. Again, I told you I had clips for this. This is Marsha Blackburn on the same topic this year.
But we saw okay, let's talk a little bit about those mass shooters, because we know that 25% of the mass shooters have been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And we know 55% of American adults with mental illness have never sought treatment and never received any treatment. And we also know that 42% of mass shooters experienced physical abuse, sexual abuse, parental suicide, or severe bullying as children.
Okay, so now you have a Democrat and a Republican both saying it's mental health, it's situational, and it's the experiences that bring these things forward. You have the Democrat who is couching himself as the arbiter of morality, saying that gun control is the only solution, his way or the highway, and then he's leaving all funding, all hardening of schools, all mental health support completely off the table, not dealing with the issue on the ground, going for the bigger fish at the end. Who's the villain here? Again, not the individual, the mindset and the philosophy and the political move. And that's what I've got for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.